Jordan and Gretzky, Serena and Ruth. Remembering great ones is easy to do.
But what about the no-names who spent their whole lives long snapping footballs and catching sack flies? They're guys, remember that guy. Remember that guy, remember that guy, remember that guy, remember that guy.
They're just gonna remember some guys now.
Hello and welcome to Who Wants to Be a Guy-llionaire, the trivia contest about the show where we mine our memories for nuggets of nostalgia about peripheral players, past or present. Hey there, folks. I am one of your hosts, James. I host this one as well, and I am similarly joined by a couple of other people up here on stage.
It's so great to reconvene for another edition of this tremendous game show in which we give out very real winnings that are very real to all of our very real contestants. We do have one more special guest joining us in the hosting booth, though. He is a man wearing over-the-ear headphones right now. Please introduce yourself.
It's me, the lawyer on the show that has to give the fine print about the incredible prizes that we have that can only be given to residents of Pennsylvania who are currently employed by the RTG podcast. But we can ignore that because we have some great people on today.
Now, initially we were planning on hosting our reigning Guy-llionaire, but the thing about Brooks, dear friend of the show, is that he's gone mad with power as the Guy-llionaire. He has sequestered himself in a tower. He's currently about to claim the championship in the RTG affiliated fantasy hockey league, and it's all just create a monster, frankly, and a monster who has insisted that the only way we can calm him down is by scouring the world for the very best challenger to take him on in a later edition. So today's Guy-llionaire is to help us determine who from all the far-flung corners of the world can take on Brooks. And I do think we have some absolutely phenomenal contestants today.
You know, I'm super thrilled that we have the greatest Canadian who talks about Japanese baseball in the world and our very good friend in fourth time now on Gaijin Baseball.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm representing Canada in our fair show and hopefully taking home some of this real money that is very real.
We're thrilled to have you back. We're also thrilled to be representing England. He is one of the greatest baseball players in all of the country. He's been called the Barry Bonds of England, just without the steroids. We have Leon back with us once again. Welcome back to the show, Leon.
Thanks for having me back. Yeah, hopefully you can go on to the final against Brooks.
Well, and then you'll be able to have the money to afford those steroids, but only if you can get past Evan, that first contestant, and our final contestant today, representing good old US of A. Here from the States, we have a returning friend of the show, returning Guy-llionaire contestant. In fact, the very first Guy-llionaire contestant who was maybe in retrospect a little bit unfairly pitted against, two of the members of the Guy Bunel who know this show pretty well. And so we have deigned to give him a second chance. Chief Journalism Correspondent Jake Adams, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, I guess I would say thanks, but the only reason I'm here is because I was promised a paycheck, especially after the beating that I took last time. That was the stipulation here. So when is that going to be in the mail?
We will see what happens when and if you are able to play/beat Brooks. But in the meantime, we've got the three of you assembled here. It is an international meeting of the minds, and I'd like to kind of run with that international flavor initially as we dip into our first category of the day. Here at RTG, we have found ourselves occasionally taking a peek behind the Iron Curtain. But there in the Eastern Bloc, it's important to remember it wasn't a monolith. Not everything was the USSR in some of the guys that we've discussed here on the show. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look back at some of those Eastern Bloc athletes, look at their origins, and we're going to ask a simple question: Soviet or No-viet? Each of these questions, we will be going through a brief bio of these athletes, and I'll just need you to tell me, quite frankly, if they were born in the Soviet Union, making them a Soviet, or if they were born in any other country, making them a No-viet. All of you will get a chance to answer each of these 5 questions and get a total of 5 points out of this category. Any questions before we begin? Wonderful. Then question the first. He's the skier featured in the intro of ABC's Wide World of Sports. But did Vinko Bogaty come from a corner of the wide world in the Soviet Union? Is Vinko Bogaty a Soviet, or No-viet? Evan, let's turn to you first. What do you think?
I'm gonna say No-viet.
We've got a No-viet for Vinko Bogataj from Evan. Leon, what are you thinking?
I'm just gonna say No-viet.
Got a No-viet from Leon as well. Jake, Vinko Bogataj, skier in ABC's Wild World of Sports, Soviet or No-viet?
I will go No-viet. Universal answer here.
It is a unanimous response of No-viet. And a good foot for you all to start on as you get the point for No-viet. Vinko Bogataj, Slovenian.
I was gonna say he sounds either Hungarian or Slovenian.
He is Slovenian. He was born in Yugoslavia.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, so
was
Slovenian.
Balkanized still, but was not Balkanized from the USSR. So, Vinko Bogataj and No-viet, you all get a point for that first one. And that brings us to question the second. Arvydas Sabonis was famously a member of the Lithuanian Olympic basketball teams that wore tie-dye jerseys sponsored by the Grateful Dead. Did this Lithuanian legend also play as a Soviet or No-viet?
I will say yes, Soviet, because Lithuania was part of the Soviet Union.
Okay, we'll say yes, Soviet for Evan. Leon, what do you think? Soviet or No-viet for Arvydas Sabonis?
I was thinking Soviet as well, yeah.
We've got a yes on Soviet.
And
to you, Jake?
Soviet.
All three of you once again in agreement, and all three of you once again take the point. Arvydas Sabonis is indeed a Soviet-born, played for the Soviet Union in the Olympics as well prior to that Lithuanian Olympic appearance.
Are these too easy, James? Do we have to get harder questions for our contestants?
I think we've got some harder questions later on in the evening. I think we can enjoy this amuse-bouche to begin with. Question number 3. Nadia Comaneci is a gymnast who won 2 golds and scored 2 perfect 10s at the 1980 Moscow Summer Olympics. Did Nadia Comaneci do that as a Soviet or No-viet? I'll turn to Jake first this time.
Soviet.
Soviet for Nadia Comaneci from Jake. Leon, what do you think? Nadia Comaneci?
Soviet.
Soviet. And to you, Evan.
I'm going to say Soviet.
The three of you are once again in agreement. Unfortunately, this time you are incorrect. She was Romanian, was of course participating in the 1980 Summer Olympics, but also participated in the 1984 Summer Olympics, one of very few gymnasts to do so. She did so under the Romanian flag, so still all tied at 2 points. No one loses any ground there. So we move to question number 4. We are sticking with female Olympians. This time we want to ask about Maya Yusova. She was an ice dancer who competed for, spoiler alert, many different flags at many different international competitions. At any point, was one of those flags Soviet, or is Maya Yusova a No-viet? Leon, we'll start with you this time.
I'm just thinking No-viet here. For some reason, my mind's going No-viet.
We think No-viet for Maya Yusova. Okay. Evan, what do you think?
I'm going to say Soviet, probably
Soviet.
because the multiple different flags thing.
Jake, you've got one on either side. Who do you want to side with this time?
Kind of lean the same way. I think it's Soviet.
Well, with the response of No-viet, Leon is unfortunately the only one to get this one incorrect. Maya Yusova is a Soviet. She performed for a number of different flags, as I mentioned. The Russian flag, the Unified flag, the CIS flag, and also the Soviet flag. So that is a point to both Evan and Jake, and that brings us to our final question in Soviet or No-viet. We're going back to basketball with American-born Lindsey Harding. She found herself on the outside looking in of the U.S. Olympic team, and so she changed her citizenship status in order to try and gain eligibility for an Olympic basketball tournament. Did she do so as a Soviet or No-viet? Jake, back to you this time first.
No-viet.
That was a No-viet from Jake. All right. Leon, what do you think?
I'm just going to go with No-viet.
No-viet as well for Leon. Evan?
I'm going to throw out a No-viet, mainly because I think the Soviet women's basketball team would be not like one you'd want to join because it was going to be really hard because they were like the number 2 team in the world for women's basketball. So why would you try and throw your head against that wall?
That's incredibly accurate. A much easier team to join might be the Belarusian team, which is what Lindsey Harding did, making her a No-viet, meaning that you all do get a point on that. So it's pretty close here as we exit the first category.
That's almost a trick question because Belarus was part of the Soviet state, but this is after the breakup of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Precisely. I like writing trivia. That does mean that our scores here after one category, we've got a tie at first, 4 points each for Evan and Jake. Leon right behind with 3. Diaz and Xavier, who's got our next category ready?
I'll hop in with the next company. And, I talked about our real prizes and our real contestants earlier. Now I want to talk about some real wrestling. So what we're going to talk about here, I'm going to give you a bio of a professional wrestler. Going to give you the name, few accomplishments. I need you to tell me, is this a real wrestler or did I just make them up entirely and they don't exist? I'll follow the same format as you, James. Each of these, I'll give you each the chance to say, are they a real wrestler? Are they not a real wrestler? Let's go to wrestler number 1. James McGinn was a pro wrestler in the late 40s to early 70s. After struggling early on under the moniker The Potato Masher, he found fame after signing an exclusive marketing deal with Slim Jim and rebranding himself as Slim Jim McGinn. He began a barnstorming tour across the country as the headliner of matches sponsored by the Meat Snack Company. Though he retired prior to the boom of professional wrestling on TV, he is hailed as one of the first to legitimize pro wrestling by associating it with a nationally known brand. My question is Slim Jim McGinn a real wrestler or not? I'll go first to you, Jake.
Let's see, you listed off an Idaho connection there. You listed off barnstorming, which fits the mid-early 1900s. I gotta say he's a real wrestler, man.
Jake's got real wrestler. Gaijin, I know you know a little bit about wrestling. Is this a real wrestler or is he made up?
This is not the area of expertise I have with wrestling, so I'm trying to think, like, when was Slim Jim? When did Slim Jim become a thing? I'm gonna say real.
And then Leon, to end it out with you, is Slim Jim McGinn a real wrestler or not?
I'm going to say he is real.
We have 3 people that believe in Slim Jim McGinn, and we have 3 people who were absolutely fooled by this completely fictitious bio. There's no part of it that's real, but I do think Slim Jim would be the type of company that would have done this. So I think that
100%. It
Yeah,
just didn't feel
my big
time-wise
thing,
like it lived up.
it didn't feel like for Slim Jim. I'm like, did Slim Jim exist before the 80s? So
Yeah, it's one of those things like Mountain Dew has actually existed forever, even though
yeah,
it
like,
feels
well,
like
I
it
knew
came
that
fully
because
formed
I
in
know
the
Mountain
90s.
Dew used to sponsor Darrell Waltrip in NASCAR.
Ah,
so,
true.
Yeah,
As someone who watches Good Mythical Morning periodically, and they do stuff where they ask about brands and how long they've existed, and how often I've been fooled thinking of brands that started in like the 70s or a potato chip started in the 90s, and find out no, it was like 1910.
Yeah, like
It's-
I've seen, like, I think one of my favorite things is seeing like skylines of Tokyo in the late 1940s and seeing like ads for Calbee chips, which I only knew came about in the 70s. So it's just like,
I mean, you are along the right line. Slim Jim has existed since 1928. So
oh, okay,
they go a ways back. They go back to when James McGinn would have been wrestling if he was real. Unfortunately, he is not. Let's see if number 2 is real or not. Sputnik Monroe was a heel wrestler in Memphis, Tennessee during the time of segregation. He once picked up a black hitchhiker on the way back from a show in Alabama, and when they arrived to the arena, the crowd booed him. Realizing he may have his new gimmick to get heat, he would go to black bars in the area and give away tickets to patrons. Soon, thousands of black fans began to fill the segregated balcony seats as they cheered for Sputnik as he cut promos in favor of the desegregation of schools to lustful boos from the white audience in the floor seats. Soon, the demand for seats was so high that Sputnik demanded the arena be desegregated. The promoter obliged, and soon the entire 15,000-seat venue was sold out with new black fans of wrestling, and Sputnik became one of the biggest faces of the entire promotion. Is Sputnik Monroe a real wrestler or not? I'm going to start with Leon this time.
I don't think he is.
We got a no from Leon.
Right, but,
Let's go to Evan. What do you think?
I feel like this is a tough one. It's so outlandish that I feel like I would have heard of this guy. I'm gonna say fake.
You're going fake. Jake, Sputnik Monroe, are you a believer or did I make him up?
So you gotta think about gamesmanship here a little bit too. Can I jump ahead, or do I want to play it safe and go with the pack yet again? I feel like this is exactly the kind of thing a capitalist would do during the segregated South to try to drum up a bunch of interest and also eventually desegregate an arena. So I'm gonna say he's a real wrestling man.
Well, Jake, I like the gameplay, and I also like the correct answer. Sputnik Monroe is 100% real. I
wanted him to be real. I wanted very badly for him to be real. So this makes me happy.
He was often arrested in Memphis. Basically, the white power structure was very upset with what he was doing down there. Every time he got arrested, it was for petty offenses. He would hire a black attorney to get him out. He would pay the fine, and then he would go right back to doing whatever it was he was arrested for. He never competed in WWE. However, Sputnik Monroe was honored by induction into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2018.
As he should be, man. What a
Him
story.
and Paul Heyman
Yeah.
right next to him.
Only in wrestling.
Yeah.
Well, for guy number 3, we're going to go back to the segregated South. Houston Harris was a pro wrestler in the 40s and 50s. After modest success playing pro baseball in the Negro Leagues, he turned into the ring and adopted the moniker Bobo Brazil, and he quickly proved so popular that promoters would buck the tradition of only putting black wrestlers against each other and would let Bobo fight against white opponents. Even in a time of segregation in the country, Bobo was roundly cheered by all fans. He would eventually challenge for the title in the early predecessor of the WWE, and he would become an early mentor to Rocky Johnson, the father of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Is Houston Harris or Bobo Brazil a real wrestler? Start with Evan.
I think so.
Evan's got a yes. Jake, what do you think?
The Rock connection in there. That makes it feel more real. I don't think you're pulling our chain on this one. I think this is a real man. Real wrestling man.
Jake says Bobo Brazil is real. Leon, do you think he is a real wrestler?
I want it to be, but I just don't think like it is. That seems like too far of a timeline for it to all line up perfectly, so I don't think it is.
Yeah, I'm perfectly understanding of your skepticism, but it is Evan and Jake who are correct. Houston Harris, a.k.a. Bobo Brazil, was in fact a baseball player who would go on to be one of the early faces of the WWF.
Part of the reason why I answered so quickly is I knew I'd heard the name Bobo Brazil somewhere. And that was like kind of the thing for me. I'm like, do I want to elaborate on why I think it's yes? No. Because I don't want to give my
You don't want to give away the juice.
Yeah, you don't want to help these guys. You're trying for a chance at a real honor here. The International Gaijin belt is only 2 steps away from all 3 of you, but still several questions away. My apologies to you.
No, of course. No, and the thing that I thought would be a little clever about that is if you remember Bobo Newsom we presented about, there could have been me just pulling a random name that sounded funny, but no, Bobo was a white baseball player, Bobo was a black baseball player, and Bobo was a great face in the early days of pro wrestling. Let's go to wrestler number 4. Monty Monterrey, better known in the ring as El Monte, was a professional wrestler who hailed from Monterrey, Mexico. In a time when all Mexican wrestlers wore masks, El Monte made history in the 70s by being the first to remove his own mask in the ring. Portraying a pretty boy who thought he was too beautiful to wear a mask, he became a national icon in the Mexican scene. After a 5-year run as the MWA champion, he moved to America to sign with WWE. El Monte wrestled for just 1 year in WWE before retiring, though he does hold the distinction of being the first person to lose to The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Is he a real wrestler? Start with you, Jake.
Now we're getting even more characters.
The thing is, there are always more characters in wrestling.
It's wrestling.
I feel like Diaz is just he's not playing a game of is this real or not. It's just I'm gonna just take this up a notch with each question. How much more ridiculous can I sound?
Yeah.
Can I sound? I'm gonna say no on this one.
Jake is a no. Jake does not believe in El Monte. Evan, do you believe in El Monte?
I don't think so. As much as I like the story, I don't quite think he was real.
And to finish us out, Leon, do you believe that Monty Monterrey, a.k.a. El Monte, is a real wrestler?
No, there was too many Montes for my head to wrap around.
The full Monte.
I just feel like that, like Monte, I'm like, what the fuck?
No, I like to, bring up the names and all that. The names are some of the best parts of wrestling. Unfortunately, Monty Monterrey is not a real wrestler. So, good induction by all of you there.
Yeah, I think the thing that gave it away was a guy named Monterey being from Monterey. I know there are people like with the last name like Cleveland and stuff like that. It's just still like enough for me to go, not quite.
Right. But
Too
we're also
convenient.
talking about the era of wrestling when like they were just like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the Iron Sheik. You know, that we're pretty bald about our racial stereotypes at this time. But we're not going to talk about racial stereotypes with guy number 5. We're going to talk about the fabulous Moolah, who was an early female icon of professional wrestling. Her career spanned 5 decades, including a 28-year reign after becoming the inaugural NWA Women's Champion. She also demanded a seat at the table in management, paving the way for women to work in all levels of the industry. Her legacy, however, is tainted by allegations of abuse. In 2018, the WWE planned the Fabulous Moolah Women's Battle Royale at WrestleMania. However, after criticism when her previous allegations resurfaced, this name of the match was changed back to just simply be a Battle Royale. Is the Fabulous Moolah a real wrestler or not? We'll go to Leon first this time.
I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna say she's a wrestler.
Leon believes in the Fabulous Moolah. Jake, I know you want some Fabulous Moolah. A correct answer here might help along that way.
Yeah, this feel like you're just taunting me right now, and I'm starting to question whether this paycheck's in the mail. That just so on the nose for wrestling. Even these fake people, you managed to hit what is wrestling at its core. But I think the Fabulous Moolah is a real wrestling woman.
Real wrestling woman. We got 2 people who believe in the Fabulous Moolah. Evan, what do you think? Is this a real wrestler or did I make it up?
I think she's real. I think I've heard this name before.
3 for 3 believe she is real. 3 for 3 are correct. The Fabulous Moolah was in fact a real wrestler. The allegations are somewhat substantiated. There are records of financial abuse. Basically, she would employ women, but then take 50% of their paychecks and only give them half of it. There's also some rumors that she may have offered out her women wrestlers in sexual favors to male promoters. It's really not great. She has a pretty messy legacy.
I had a feeling, one, I heard the name before, and 2, I had a feeling like if it was that bad that Vince McMahon would, take her out of a promotion.
Well put.
Like it'd have to be bad.
Not really a good look. And I mean, the allegations came out after she died, so
Oh yeah.
we have no idea what she would say about them. But there's enough people saying enough things, and there are people that say that she didn't do them. But
I think I'd trust the female wrestlers who were under her more than.
Yeah, like Jerry Lawler is one of her biggest defendants. Like Jerry Lawler openly calls women's breast puppies during every broadcast, so might not be the best source on women empowerment there. But
No.
let's move on to our next wrestler. Abdullah the Butcher was an early progenitor of extreme wrestling matches, which would feature things such as barbed wire, glass windows, and thumbtacks. A nomad of the wrestling scene, he never competed for nor won a title, but instead went around to promotions across the nation, putting on his displays of total barbarism. He wrestled his last match in 2010 at the nice age of 69, bringing the end to a very ruthless but nonetheless nice career. Is Abdullah the Butcher a real wrestler? Start with Jake this time.
No.
Jake giving a firm no. Evan, do you believe in Abdullah the Butcher?
Yes, I do.
Evan is a yes. Leon, crowd split. Which way are you going?
I'm gonna go with no. I just don't see those lining up properly.
He's going to go with the no. Evan knows his wrestling history, though, so of course he knows Abdullah the Butcher. That guy was fucking crazy. A fun thing about him, so often wrestlers will blade. They'll cut themselves for dramatic effect to make themselves bleed. Ric Flair said that the divots in his head were so deep that then when they were gambling together, he could fully lodge poker chips in them and they would just be secure in the crevices in his head from cutting himself so much.
I know about Abdullah the Butcher because he wrestled Shohei Giant Baba at Tokyo Stadium in 1970. And Shohei Giant Baba, I hope he's not a future question.
No, he's not.
he was, up until last year, the tallest Japanese player to ever play pro baseball. He had gigantism. He was a pitcher briefly for the Yomiuri Giants in, I believe, 1958-59. But because he was so big, he got injured so much that he couldn't stay up in NPB. So he quit, started wrestling, became essentially the face of Japanese pro wrestling. And I remember that because the first 4 events that sold out Tokyo Stadium in 1970, that match between Abdullah the Butcher and Giant Baba, and game 3, 4, and 5 of the Japan series. So, yeah.
Just a peek behind the curtain for listeners here. I answer the question, I look at Evan, and I see him smirk right after I give the answer, and I was just like, shit.
I'm just thinking, like, I have a shitty-ass poker face.
He's covered his mouth, but the corner of his mouth is just peeking out a little bit. I see this smirk, I was like, crap.
It's like, shit.
Like, another peek behind the curtain. As soon as I heard Abdullah the Butcher, my eyes lit up. I'm like, oh, I know who this is.
That's where the glare off the glasses helps at least a little bit.
To
block
yeah.
out those eyes. We have 3 more that we're going to get through. Benjamin Gordon was a pro wrestler born in Leeds, England. After growing up as a promising rugby player, his family immigrated to the United States at the age of 16. Without a local rugby team, he instead featured for the Valdosta High School football team in Georgia, dominating at running back at the height of 6'7". Colleges only wanted him as a lineman, which he refused, so instead he took his impressive athleticism into the ring as Big Ben, a heel wrestler who lectured Americans on British superiority. After a 20-year career as a wrestler in the NWA, Big Ben would return to England and found one of the first pro wrestling promotions in England, helping to create interest in the sport back in his native country. Is Big Ben Gordon a real wrestler or not? I'll start with you, Evan.
I'm going to go with yes, mainly because I like the idea of his character. A British heel would work very well, you know, in American wrestling circles, especially in the NWA. So
we got a yes from Evan. Leon, Big Ben Gordon, your fellow countryman, does he exist or is he just a fairy tale?
I'm going to say yes, because I think rugby players normally, if they are going to go into American football, they would normally go running back, that one lined up, and into wrestling. Kind of makes sense to me. And the name is just
a natural crossover into American football. We have 2 yes votes on the board. Jake, will you join them or will you metagame it again?
No, this one I think is a real wrestling man, mainly because it would fit wrestling too. While you can't play the race card with this, Big Ben, England, this very much fits. So I think he's real.
We have 3 real votes, and we have 3 people who are wrong. Again, I completely made this dude up. There's nothing factual about any of that. But I agree with all of you. I really wish he was. If I get the WWE 2K24 video game, I'm making Big Ben Gordon.
there you go.
He is taunting us when he gets us is something else. Start of the show.
No, so to peel back behind my curtain, I did the write-ups for all of the wrestlers in this presentation that are real first. That got me in the right headspace to be able to come up with these backstories for the ones that aren't.
Yeah.
We do have 2 more, though. First, I want to go with Joko Widodo was a professional wrestler born in Indonesia. Though his father was only 5'3" and his mother was 4'11", he grew to be 7 feet tall due to a tumor on his pituitary gland that was not discovered until the age of 14. After successful surgery, he became a local celebrity due to his incredible size. He eventually moved to the United States to be a villain in Hollywood movies. After he starred opposite of Chuck Norris in the sleeper 80s hit Rebel with a Claws, he caught the eye of Vince McMahon, who convinced him to join WWE under the moniker The Great Bali. He wrestled with the company for 4 years, including a brief reign as tag team champion alongside the Ultimate Warrior. Is the Great Bali a real wrestler? I'll go to you first, Jake.
No.
Jake is a no vote. Evan.
I'm going to lean yes. There are parts of it that I'm a little iffy about, but I'm going to lean yes.
Evan believes yes. The expert says yes. The skeptic says no. Leon, what say you?
I was going to say yeah.
Leon is also a believer. The Great Bali is completely made up. That is not a real wrestler. Some details inspired by the Great Khali. he is a wrestler from India.
That's where I thought about. Yeah.
I do want to point out, though, Joko Widodo, that is a real person. That is the current president of Indonesia, but he has no pro wrestling experience.
Fucking dick.
No, I wanted to make this guy Indonesian. The Great Bali was what came to me first. And then I was like, what are Indonesian names? And I was like, the president. That's probably an Indonesian name. So that seemed like a safe way to do it.
Yeah,
Well,
betting on our lack of knowledge of Indonesian politics, which you were totally right to bet on.
I mean, look, kind of like what you got with Jeopardy, too. Even if you don't know the real thing, there might be something in there that can trigger something. But we do have one last wrestler to go over here. James Arthur Harris was a pro wrestler born and raised in Mississippi. After leaving town following a series of burglaries, he met Bobo Brazil in Florida, who convinced him to begin training as a pro wrestler. After struggling to garner much attention under the monikers Sugar Bear Harris and Ugly Bear Harris, he found the character for which he would be best known when he started going as Kamala. Portraying a fierce native African warrior, he would challenge Hulk Hogan for the WWE title at Madison Square Garden, but never ultimately won the title. Is he a real wrestler? I'll start with you, Evan.
No.
Does not believe in Kamala. Jake, do you believe in Kamala?
I do spiritually, but not physically. No.
We have 2 no votes for Kamala Harris. Leon, do you believe in Kamala Harris?
no. I don't know.
Did you just feel
All
safe
I'm
saying that to him?
We have 3 no votes, but I gotta tell you, Kamala is a very real wrestler. Does pronounce the name slightly different than the United States Vice President Kamala Harris, but Kamala was a very real wrestler. He has not made it into the WWE Hall of Fame. That would be because he joined a class action lawsuit in 2016, which alleged that WWE withheld information about head injuries and concussions from wrestlers. Once you sue the WWE, you're not going to get into the WWE Hall of Fame. That is our last real wrestler. The other 4 real wrestlers all are inductees of the WWE Hall of Fame. We've been on a wrestling kick here. This is a lot of
You and
fun.
your trick questions.
He's on him effectively.
I thought the Kamala Harris thing would be a little too absurd for you guys to believe, and I'm really glad that I was right.
Yeah, I was just thinking. As soon as I heard like the Great Kamala, like his name's Harris, the Great Kamala. Oh well, fuck. Then I should have seen through it.
I mean, I'm not too good with all the wrestling kind of stuff. Ben,
Yeah,
there's
I'm
lots
like,
of everywhere.
I had a feeling like he did pull out one of the things I'm like stupid familiar with is New Japan Pro Wrestling from the 90s. I just know there was so many characters and stories coming out of that, especially in the late 80s. They used to have, well, they do now. New Japan Pro Wrestling's like main thing is the main sumo ring in Tokyo. They got kicked out of there for 2 years because they had Big Van Vader beat the local Japanese champion, and it started a riot. So it's just like
2011 Vancouver all over again, baby.
oh yeah, no, this is just 1987 or 88 in Tokyo, and that's when like Big Van Vader became like the most iconic heel in Japanese pro wrestling.
Well, we're going to move away from wrestling now. We're going to stay international, as I understand it, with Xavier's next category. Real quick, a check on scores. Leon, you are still there at the back with 5 points, but you're not too far away from our 2 leaders. It has separated a little bit now. They're at the top. In second place with 8 points is Evan, which means Jake currently leading with a score of 9. So it's 5, 8, and 9 respectively for Leon, Evan, and Jake as we head, Xavier, to your category.
Yeah, so we have some international flavor here today, but also the Olympics are coming up, and I love the Olympics. So I want to talk about Olympics. And we've done enough Olympic guys that there's plenty to choose from, even if James used like 3 of the ones that I had written down earlier. I've also tried to, get a bit of a focus on some of the countries represented here, so no one has any more of an advantage than anyone else. I'm going to start off with one that I consider pretty easy. What country has hosted the most Olympic Games? And I'm going to start with Evan here.
I'm gonna say France.
Okay, we got France. Leon?
It screams Greece.
Greece. Jake?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this one's Greece.
James, do you have something to say here?
I think, Xavier, that you might have wanted to insert the word modern.
Modern.
In your
Okay.
question.
Modern Olympics. Since 1896, if that changes people's answers.
I just wanted to make it clear we're not counting like 200 BCE. Greek.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's
Because those
what I
were all
figured.
Greece. That's easy. We'd just all say Greece.
That's Yankees shit.
You can also stick with Greece. That is totally fine. But James is right. I should have said modern.
Greece has still hosted a couple. More than most countries.
Yeah, I might stick.
I think I'll stick with that. I can
I'm sticking.
I need to.
All right. Well, I hate to inform you, but all three of you are wrong. The answer is the United States. The U.S. has hosted the most.
USA.
There were just years where they just had
Placid 3 times.
fake eagle noise in the background.
Yeah, because Lake Placid 3 times, Salt Lake City, Atlanta, LA. Damn it.
Yeah.
LA again. I'm stupid.
You have to think of countries that can host both the summer and winter
That's
games.
why I went with France, because I know they'd done that.
Oh,
But I forgot that, like, as soon as I thought, I'm like, oh yeah, I've been to Lake Placid multiple times. They have a bunch of stuff commemorating the 3 times they've hosted the games. I've played hockey in the 1980 arena. Like,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
That's
It's an
cool.
awesome feeling.
Look at me, Louis, over there. Jeez.
All right. Well, let's go from big countries to small countries here. What British territory is considered the country with the smallest population to ever win a gold medal, despite not technically being a country? Leon, let's start with you as the resident Brit here.
For some reason my head's going to the Falkland Islands, but I'm not sure if that's Argentine or if it's British, because I know there was a fight over it all and stuff.
There's a little war about the Falkland Islands.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
one more, but
The Falkland
A few.
Islands war.
It might be. Actually, I'm just going to say UK Virgin Islands.
okay, we got the Virgin Islands. Jake, what about you?
See, I was wondering about the Virgin Islands too.
You can say the Virgin Islands if you want.
Oh,
There's no rule against, making the same pick.
Let's go Virgin Islands.
All right, Evan, down to you.
Yeah, I was going to say either the British Virgin Islands or Bermuda, so I'm going to go with the British ones.
Evan, I wish you had made the
Oh,
other one
it's
because the
Bermuda,
answer
damn
is
it.
Bermuda. 2021. Bermuda's Flora Duffy won the gold medal in the women's triathlon.
Damn
Not
it.
long ago.
It was
Okay.
on the tip of my tongue.
So close. So
Yeah, but
close.
I'm just thinking, like,
Triangle.
because I know the
Bermuda
U.S. Virgin
Triathlon.
Islands and there's like runners and stuff
Yeah.
like that who come from there. So I'm thinking like maybe that could be something similar for the British Virgin Islands.
It's all right, Evan. Let's go with something Canadian. See if we can get you on the board here.
All right.
Canada has the most gold medals in 3 different Winter Olympic sports. One is ice hockey, another is freestyle skiing. But can you name the third?
I want to say bobsled.
Bobsled. Okay. Leon, what about you?
I'm going to go kind of similar, but go skeleton.
Skeleton? Jake?
Downhill skiing.
Okay. So disappointed in you guys at this point. Maybe it's me, because the answer was curling. The most Canadian of all Canadian sports that I could think of.
Curled. My dad
It
curled.
would have been
Why am I
my
doing?
guess.
I would have thought I would have thought Scotland would have had quite a few curling medals, but yeah, makes a lot of because there's the whole Briar.
But we're not
too.
even the Olympics.
Like-
It's
like-
GB.
I grew up because my grandpa was a big curler, so that passed down to my dad and later me, and we watched the Briar every year, like whenever we were over at his house for like Sunday dinner.
All right. This one should be a layup. But I feel weird saying that because I would have assumed one person would have got at least one of them at this point. But there are 4 answers to this one, so hopefully it's a little easier.
To be fair, I've been
Prejudice.
close 3 times.
That's true.
Which
You have
almost-
been close.
3 times, which hurts.
So the Olympics have been canceled or postponed on 4 different occasions in modern history. Name one of those 4 years where the Olympics were scheduled to be held and were not held in that calendar year. Jake.
It was trying to make sure I got the right year here.
Jake, I'm gonna put the Jeopardy music on.
Oh, I know, you should. You should.
Yeah.
Well, it's the okay. I'm overthinking this. The 2020 Summer Olympics.
Okay, Evan.
I'm gonna go with a different Tokyo Olympics, Tokyo 1940.
Okay, and Leon.
I was going to go 2020.
You could say 2020. I did not say if anyone was right or wrong at this point. So you could say 2020.
I was going to say 2020 anyway.
All right. Well, guess what? All three of you are correct this time. That's why I thought this was an easy one, because it literally just happened a couple years ago.
It was Tokyo 2020, Tokyo 1940, I think Stockholm 1944.
Yep.
And I'd forget the fourth one.
1916.
2021 for
Oh,
the longest time, and then I remembered that we had just said that the Olympics are this summer, which I should
It
know.
was 1916 was supposed to be held in Berlin, which is possibly the worst.
Yeah, which is why they got it in 36, which is also why Tokyo got it in 1960. Was it 60 or 66? Or 60 Tokyo 64. Right?
No,
because
it's 64.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1964 was Tokyo. That's correct.
Yeah, because I know, throwing back into my wheelhouse now, the Tokyo Flyers, or Toei Flyers, who are now the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters, they got kicked out of their stadium because of Tokyo 1964, because it was at the same place where they were going to build the Olympic Stadium for Tokyo 64. And I love that it was in the neighborhood of Komazawa, which I forget which ward that was in. It's like right on the border with Kanagawa. And from the time they played there, they were known as like a very rough and tumble team, so the media called them the Komazawa Barbarians, which I just loved. And then the team became known as the Fighters 15 years later. So
I do like that. We're even as a contestant, Evan is giving us so much trivia that James will remember. I have a guy question that I'm sure Diaz will know the answer to, but he doesn't get to respond. How many different Olympic games did Dara Torres medal in? Leon, let's go with you first.
Swimmer Dara Torres famously had a lot of shit to prove.
How many years or how many?
How many different Olympic games did she medal in?
Okay. I'm going to guess around 7.
7?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. Evan, what do you think?
I'm going to say 4, because that seems like what a normal career length would fit into 16 years.
Jake?
I'm gonna go 6, but I'm really scared that Leon's right, because I've been going back and forth between 6 and 7, because I know she was in at least 6 Olympics.
I was
Whether or
going
not
to
she
go 6 or
medaled.
7.
Yeah, whether or not she medaled in all of them, and she's in all likelihood she's been in a 7th Olympics. I just don't remember. I'm gonna say 6.
All right, so we got 7, 6, and 4. Diaz, do you want to tell us how many Olympics Dara Torres competed in and how many she medaled in?
So after medaling in the 84, 82, and 92 Olympics, Dara missed 96. She came back for 2000. She missed 04 and came back in 08 with more shit to prove in her 5th Olympics and the final one in which she medaled. That is remarkable that you got every number around it except for the right number.
And her career was
really, really good at getting close to the correct answer.
Her career was the length of 7 Olympics. She just did not compete in 2 of them.
7 Olympics, that's 32 years. Jesus.
Dara Torres had a lot of shit to prove.
Yeah, the last 2 came after becoming a mom as well. So, just to add to how fucking incredible women are, and holy shit, we need to appreciate women's sports. Also, as we record this, WNBA draft's happening. Shout out Caitlin Clark and everybody getting drafted.
Caitlin Clark is going to do so much for that league, man, if she stays healthy. I have a feeling that, like, the WNBA is already set up to succeed more than the... I know it loses money hand over fist, but, like, it has a lot more involvement than a lot of other leagues.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to take a very MLS path that in, like, all it needs is a superstar, and you've got a profitable league.
Asia's going to eat Caitlin's lunch money this year, just for the record.
Here, in this analogy, Asia Wilson is like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and this is the Larry Bird Magic draft where they're both coming into the league.
Yeah.
The old guard's going to have a few years still. But between Caitlin, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, Aaliyah Edwards, the future will be soon. It's not now yet, old man, but it is soon.
And we know somebody who is a sports reporter in Indianapolis who is on scene right now at the WNBA draft. So shout out to Alexa Ross, who's probably going to get to interview Caitlin Clark, I would assume. But that is very cool. I've got plenty more, but I'm just going to do one more because I like this question the best. The 2014 movie Foxcatcher detailed the lead up to the 1988 Olympics and the struggle of Mark Schultz training at the Foxcatcher farm under John DuPont. Who played Mark Schultz in the movie Foxcatcher? And I'm going to go Jake first.
Channing Tatum?
Is that your answer?
I think that's my answer, because for a minute, because I don't remember it all that well. I remember Steve Carell being in that movie because of all the prosthetics they did for his character.
Yes, they did a lot of prosthetics for Steve Carell. Leon, who do you think played Mark Schultz in the movie Foxcatcher?
I do not have a clue. Literally, I don't really watch many movies and stuff, so...
You're too young. You were like 8 years old when this movie came out, so...
Yeah, no. So.
I was 16. Way to make me feel old. I
don't actually. I just... Yeah.
Okay, I'll answer. It was Channing Tatum.
It was indeed Channing Tatum. I apologize, Leon. I should have picked a movie that was a little later on, but Channing Tatum did play Mark Schultz in Foxcatcher, which is a phenomenal
They
movie.
did a lot of drugs together on screen.
It's such a good movie. It's so good.
It is such a good movie. That was unfortunately not such a good category for their scores, but we do have an update on the scores before we try and juice them just a little bit more. Leon, you are still at the back of the pack with 6. We got a chance for you to try and catch up in a moment. You'll be catching up to Evan in second with 10, and Jake in first with 11.
As soon as Jake got Channing Tatum, I'm like, damn it, I can't tie him.
Well, you've got a chance to here before we go into the final. This is our old favorite. It's our old chestnut. It's the bread and butter. It's 69 or 420. You will be presented with a question that has a numerical answer related to a guy we've discussed on this show. We don't want the real answer. We just want to know if that answer is closer to 69 or 420. Any questions before we dive in?
No, sir.
Lovely.
Cool.
Beloved journeyman backup quarterback Earl Morrall was many things. He was an MVP, he was an All-Pro, and 100 times in his 21 career, he was a starter. What was his average yards per game in his 100 career starts over 21 years? 69 or 420? And for American football, let's start with our American contestant, Jake. 69 or 420, Earl Morrall's yards per game in starts.
I'll give you both.
69.
We've got one for 69. Leon, you're coming around on football. What's it got? 69 or 420?
It's probably on the closer end, but on 69, I think.
69. And Evan, I know it's not quite CFL, but it is still close enough. With the exchange rate, is it 69 or 420?
I think it has to be 69. Like anything closer to 420 would be like Hall of Fame caliber.
Well, you are all starting off on the right foot here. It was just under 200 yards per game, about 194, which does come to closer to 69. So it's a point for everyone to start as
I hoped I would trick you guys by pretending I didn't know that answer.
I was about to say, I'm glad you called on me last, because I'm like, I know how gridiron football works. This seems.
Pretty much anyone after 1995, 2000, 2005.
It's climbing up there.
Yeah, but pre that, Earl Morrall, like that, these guys aren't throwing for 200 yards very often. So I was like, okay, I need to play this. If I just go, I know this answer, I give it away.
Well, let's see how Evan does on home ice this time as we go to question number 2. John Scott played in one very memorable All-Star game. In terms of regular season games, how many did he play in his career? 69 or 420?
Closer to 420.
We've got 420 from Evan. Jake, you dip your toes in hockey a little bit. What do you think for John Scott, All-Star Game MVP, 69 or 420 career regular season games?
I think this is 420, yeah.
Okay. And Leon, what do you think? 69 or 420?
Also think it's 420.
All right. You all, once again, in agreement, do each net a point for John Scott. 286 career games with, of course, that one very memorable All-Star game in addition to it.
No, the NHL completely and utterly shafted him after we voted him in.
But
And
he
I
got
say
his
we
name.
because yes, I did too. Because I'm not gonna not get on that joke. You know,
all did.
James,
Leon?
you specifically cannot say that.
That's true.
You cannot say we all did. People have heard that episode.
It's true.
Xavier
Xavier does
was
not-
standing outside Gary Bettman's office with his "I support Bettman, John Scott sucks" sign.
Noted Gary Bettman supporter Xavier. But Xavier is also a fan of this next guy. Leon, we'll give you a chance to answer this one first because it's a little more in your wheelhouse. I want to ask you about Fabrice Muamba, who in March of 2012 went into cardiac arrest during a game between Bolton and Tottenham. He was eventually revived, thanks to a doctor in the crowd. How many minutes before they got him taken care of? How long was his heart stopped? 69 or 420 minutes? Leon, we're going to you first.
My God. Wait a sec. Let me just try and work this out because I'm pretty sure it was. I'm going to say 420.
Going to say 420. All right. Evan, 69 or 420 minutes that he was in cardiac arrest on the field.
69. Closer
69?
to 69.
And
Yeah.
Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, brain damage starts at what, 8 minutes?
Yeah.
So it's got to be 69.
It is longer than 8 minutes. I'll start by saying that. It's 20 minutes longer than 8 minutes. 28 is closer to 69, so that will be a point for Evan and Jake.
Oh,
Yeah, because like I know
I
how the
was
human
thinking
body works.
when he went into the hospital,
No,
he then
but,
woke up 3 hours later.
Yeah,
I
he
do
woke up
apologize.
3 hours later, but he was like over a certain amount of point. Is going to be serious brain damage.
Yeah, we'll allow you to play that under protest if this ends up being close. We can review that with the final 2-minute ref report. But we will continue for now with question number 4. I don't know who's got the best foot on this sport, but we'll see. Ann Walker has been a fixture in the Pac-12 golf scene for decades at this point. She recently has added 2 team titles to Stanford University's collection. Stanford has the record for the most NCAA team titles in the country. How many do they have? 69 or 420? You know, Jake, I think college sports, let's lead off with you.
Oh, man. And I was just listening to one of your episodes where you were talking about Stanford having all of those NCAA end-of-year awards because most other schools don't sponsor nearly as many sports as them. You're talking team titles, any sport, period.
Yep.
Oh, this one's going to be close. I'm going to say 420, but I am not confident in that answer.
All right, we've got a 420 from Jake. We'll stay in North America first. Evan, what do you think? How many team titles does Stanford have? 69?
With the sheer amount of sports that Stanford does and how good they're always almost near the top in most of the sports they do. It's got to be closer to 420.
Leon, what do you think? You've got 2 420 so far. I know this is not necessarily your area of expertise. You're going
I'm just
422.
going to say 420.
Leon, I so thoroughly wish you could have caught up there a little bit because with 134, which is the record, that is unfortunately closer to 69. It is not quite 420 there, folks, so no one gets a point on that one, but that's okay. We've got 2 more left before our final. Let's go ahead and move on next to Jay Berwanger. Jay Berwanger in 1935, he won the first ever Heisman Trophy and was voted on by the Downtown Athletic Club of New York City. I want to know, in 1935, for this first ever Heisman Trophy, how many total votes were cast? 69 or 420? Let's go.
Start.
Go ahead. Yeah, let's have you start.
I'd say 69.
We think 69 there? Okay. Jakey, what have you got there for us?
Because that was so regional at the time, even more than college football is now, had to have been 69 because they wouldn't have had national writers involved with that at that point. So it's got to be 69.
Leon, I know again we are talking college sports, but do you want to go with the crowd?
I'll probably just go with 69, yeah. They
Okay.
know more than me in this kind of field.
So Jay Burwanger got 84 votes. That was 43% of the votes cast, which, if you do a little bit of backwards math, equals to 156. And that does mean all three of you get a point for 69 there. Let's go ahead and bring us here to a close, 69-420. We have done what we need to do. We need to get those scores a little bit more juiced before our final wagers. One last chance, though, to juice those scores, folks. I want to talk about boxing referee Mills Lane. Made most of his TV appearances in his life on his popular daytime court television show. I want to know, according to IMDb, how many episodes of Judge Mills Lane were there? 69 or 420? Jake, let's start with you. Judge Mills Lane, fixture of daytime TV for, and I'll give y'all a hint. 5 seasons. 69 or 420, Jake?
It's gonna end up being like 240 something. You're gonna put this one right on the edge. I'm just gonna say 69.
You're gonna say 69. All right. Leon, let's turn to you. Judge Mills Lane, 5 seasons of television, daytime television. Now, I will say our seasons can be a little bit longer than the 6-episode BBC ones, so I don't know if that factors into your math. But I need to know from your math, do you think we have 69 or 420 episodes of Judge Mills Lane?
I'm just going to say 420. I think it's going to be around 420,
Okay. All right. Evan, who do you think you're going to side with this time? The American or the Brit? How many episodes of Judge Mills Lane are there? Which way does Canada lean?
I'm gonna risk it for the biscuit and say 420.
Okay. You're going to go for 420? And you and Leon will collect a point. I'm going to go ahead and say the actual number. In 5 seasons, there were 700 episodes of Judge Mills Lane broadcast to the world.
I was about to say, like, it's like daytime TV in the States.
Yup.
That could be like,
insane.
like, even if it was like weekly, that's still, for 5 years, that's still 250 something, you know?
These shows are on to be played for old people and in the waiting rooms of a bunch of different places. It's like an hour a day, very little thought going into them. You can crank those out as much, like, in seconds.
It's kind of like baseball in that way, where it becomes this background watching thing.
It's just there.
But at least in baseball, that there's something you can actually look forward to.
Well, speaking of things to look forward to, we do have our final category. I'm so sorry. And the scores after 69-420. Leon, you got 10 points now, and it is once again a tie at the top, 15 apiece for Evan and Jake. So that's where scores stand as we enter our final. Here's what we're going to do. We'll tell you the category, much like Jeopardy. The 3 of you will then send in your wagers, and we will figure out who's going to go ahead and walk away with a chance to take on Brooks. The category today for our final is Gamer Guys. After appearing in the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series, Matt Hoffman became the cover athlete for his own Pro BMX series. With 2 entries, it is the second longest running extreme sports video game series after Tony Hawk. For which video game publisher? We are looking for the publisher of the Matt Hoffman Pro BMX and Tony Hawk Pro Skater series. Take your time. Folks, the responses are in. Let's go ahead and see how our contestants did here. Who amongst these globe-trotting Guy-llionaire wannabes is going to get a chance at the title? Let's take a look first, Leon, at your response. You're in 3rd place. Did a respectable showing, but we're definitely trailing the whole time. Let's see if this will help vault you forward. Your answer was EA, Electronic Arts. It is unfortunately not correct. It's a solid guess, but it will cost you 6 points today, leaving you with a final score of 4. So you will remain in 3rd for the time being. Evan, you did a wonderful job catching up with Jake there after he got that narrow lead. You responded THQ. Again, I think a very respectable guess, but it is unfortunately another incorrect one, and it's going to cost you 5 points, bring you down to a final score of 10. So you will, for the time being, remain, as you often have for this day, in second place. And that brings us to the guy that jumped ahead initially, was able to maintain that lead for quite some time until Evan came nipping at his heels. Jake, your response to this was Activision. You bet the house on it. You bet everything on this. All 15 points on Activision. How are you feeling about that response right now, Jake, as I make you twist in the wind? Do you think Evan beat you because you lost everything?
Well, my strategy was I'm either gonna force overtime here or I'm gonna lose in a fiery ball of flame. So I was like,
The James strategy.
I was like, why not just go for this?
And the amazing
but like when
thing,
he said THQ, I thought he had it for a second. I was like, crap.
the amazing thing,
I don't
Jake, is
feel
you
good.
prepared yourself for those two eventualities. And neither of them will happen. You did not lose. There is no need for overtime. Activision is correct. And with a score of 30, you are the winner today. You bet the house and it paid off. Well done.
I was thinking Activision as well, but didn't they also publish Tony Hawk?
They did. Yes, it was
Yeah,
both.
because they published Tony Hawk, I was thinking like, okay, he's gonna go to a rival publisher.
There is that, and then there's Kelly Slater's Pro Surfboarding, and then there's two more that I can't remember off the top of my head that, like Pro Surfboarding, only have the one entry. But with 2 entries, Matt Hoffman Pro BMX was the second longest after the 10 mainline entries for Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Running entry of Activision, a very distant second. And I mean, you finished with a pretty solid first place finish there, Jake. How's it feel to come out on top knowing that you now face your former roommate, Brooks?
It'll feel better once that check clears.
I will text Brooks.
I hope it feels good now. We do appreciate you guys coming on to represent your countries. It has been absolutely lovely to have you here and to try and do the best you could to become Guy-llionaires. You know, Guy-llionaire capitalism exists everywhere. Speaking of guy-related wealth, you can find a wealth of guy-related stuff at bit.ly/rememberthatguy, all one word, all lowercase. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty proud of that one. I'm also proud of the work we do, but we couldn't do it without, I'll say first, our musical director, Don Ham, with all that lovely theme music, because I want to take a second, truly to just say thank you to producer Craig and the coders behind him. And I know this sounds like a joke because Craig is a bot that we use to record audio tracks, and then I do all of the work beyond that. But in particular, this weekend, there were worries about whether or not CraigBot was going to be operational today. There was issues with updates, and it was just amazing to see in the Discord for that community, the coders working to get that fixed in hours. So I don't just want this to be a jokey throwaway line. This podcast, we get to do it for free because of really nice software that those people put out. So thank you to producer Craig and the coders behind him. Truly. Thank you to our guests. And most of all, thank you to your dear listener. Anything else from anyone on the way out?
Yeah. You can find me at Gaijin Baseball on Twitter and YouTube. I swear I'm going to throw something out. I knew I had this big plan, and then I sat down and stared in the barrel of 8 hours of editing and went, So that got shelved. I haven't put out anything for 2 months, but I do have something in the works right now. Should be out by the end of the month. Crossing fingers, crossing toes, all that fun stuff. But it should be on a guy who I really, really respect, and I hope that I can do him justice.
Leon, where can people find your British baseball box scores? Where can we follow your burgeoning career over there?
So it's like a whole league. We're in a Southwestern Wales Baseball League. So I travel to places like Cardiff, Bristol, Bournemouth, Southampton and Truro, and I play baseball all over the Southwest and South Wales. It's all part of the BBF as well.
So if you happen to be one of the people listening to this because you know Leon, go support Leon's baseball. Jake, anything that you want to plug other than just your general ability to work for people?
Yeah.
This man.
You can find me on Twitter, although I'm barely ever active on it anymore, at JakeAdams520 if you're looking for a sports journalist in the PA general area or remote who has a dog and a cat that occasionally make guest appearances during team meetings on Zoom or whatever, or want someone who listens to way too much Imagine Dragons for anyone of this age group or any age group, really, I'm your guy. I'm looking for employment right now. I got a wedding to pay for, so that would be nice. Other than that, my social media is kind of boring now. But you can find me here on this episode that you've just listened to as well. That's my biggest public appearance in a while. But yeah, if you need someone to write things or edit things that have been written, I'm your Huckleberry.
I saw you were doing stuff for COBL the other day.
Yeah, I did stuff for this past basketball season. It was a good run to do that after things went south in Louisville for me. I needed to step away from journalism for a little bit, and we moved back home, my fiance and I, but doing that a couple nights a week, even though it sometimes meant 4 hours of sleep going into work the next day, I keep saying it got me back to my roots and kind of made me, I still love journalism, but it made me like enjoy it again, just to kind of do some of the basics, and I didn't have to deal with some of the political machinations behind the scenes as much, so it got me wanting to get back in a little sooner than later, and I recently just lost a job, so here we are. Now's as good a time as any.
Speaking for my fellow journalist, hire this man.
Hire all of the delightful journalists that we have on this show. It has been delightful having you all on here, and it has been delightful being one of your hosts, James.
I have been the very special guest, Xavier.
I've been Gaijin Baseball, a.k.a. Evan.
I've been your friend from the UK, Leon.
I've been the used guys now living in Yinzer territory, Jake.
Jake, you're a traitor for leaving us in Philadelphia. However, I am a loyal Philadelphian. I am Diaz, and as Regis Philbin once said, the answer heard round the world, he's won $1 guy-llion.
Leon definitely was not alive for that. But
yeah, the only one I remember is MX versus ATV. And I remember playing that in my dad's ancient laptop, and it would run for like 20 minutes and then crash without fail.
In my bedroom right now, I have a PlayStation 2 hooked up solely to play ATV Off-Road Fury 2 once every month or two. And that game is from 2002.
I'm trying to figure out which ATV Off-Road Fury I got, because I'm trying to find one that had one of the songs I used to listen to.
Jake, I have the playlist for ATV Off-Road Fury 2 on my phone because it fucking rules.
I got to say, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 over that one. That is that's
Tony
a
Hawk
freak
Underground.
win.
Tony Hawk Underground specifically. Thug is tip top there.
Madden 04 or 05, that's like my favorite soundtrack ever.
What's the one that started off with Party Hard by Andrew WK? Like, you load into the game and then
I think it's either 04 or 03.
I think that's 04, because I feel like I remember that one. I don't know if I had 03.
Leon just watching us talk about all these things before he was
we're